Hello, 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 and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Mike Haddad, and I am the Special Projects Coordinator for Theater at First. I would just like to do a very brief introduction and say how thrilled we are to have this wonderfully new, unique program. And to bring us this amazing program, I present to you the mastermind behind it all, the program director, Andy Lebrun. Andy?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to this, what I'm sure will be a wonderful show. We've got a set of hilarious tales for you to watch. Concept of this show, Tales from the Internet, started in the minds of a couple of friends of mine, Matt Ringle and Jen Kerber. It got transferred into my brain at a party, and it's been stuck there since many years ago. So last year, I decided to finally make it happen. We're going to take these internet stories and put them on a stage. Oh, wait, there's no stages anymore. But you can't kill an idea, and the show must go on. So we brought it from the internet to not a stage, but the internet again. It's perfect. This is where we are. Some of these shows are more well-known than others. Some are random blog posts that I just had bookmarked for a long time because they're so funny. Some of them are threads with multiple authors. They were never even intended to be taken as a single work of art, but they deserve a bigger audience than my occasional dramatic readings of them at parties to people. And that audience is you. So I would like to ask everyone to silence their phones. That is, the actors should silence their phones, because you at home, you could do whatever you want. You can make as much noise. I don't care. Bathrooms are over where your bathroom is. The refreshments are in your kitchen. Do what you want. We're going to yell some funny stories at you. So now, our first tale from the internet. This is, I has a sweet potato. So some of you will have read this story before. It's from LiveJournal. Remember LiveJournal? This was posted back in 2007, and it has become an internet classic. Take it away, Sarah.
You know, a lot of times I write up random posts and then don't post them. But Best Beloved just called me, and I couldn't really explain why I was inarticulate about sweet potatoes. So I said I'd go ahead and post this. That way she can read it at work and know just what kind of day it's been. Short version for those of you who don't feel like reading or listening to the whole post. Ah, fucking sweet potatoes. The long version, summarized in conversation below.
I am starving.
Aw, actually, no, you aren't starving. You get 2 very good meals a day, and treats. And Best Beloved fed you extra food while I was gone.
Starving.
I saw you get fed not 4 hours ago. You are not starving.
Pity me, a sad and tragic creature, for I can barely walk. I am so starving. Whoa.
And I am now ignoring you.
Starving. Did you hear me? I am starving. Are you seriously ignoring me? Fine.
There is a pause, during which the dog exits the room in a pointed manner. From the kitchen, there comes a noise like someone eating a baseball bat.
What the hell are you doing?
I make haste for the kitchen and find dog there. Dog picks up entire raw sweet potato, which is what was causing the baseball bat noise, and flees for the bedroom. I chase dog, retrieve most of sweet potato, less the portion which has disappeared into dog's gullet.
See? Starving.
That can't be good for you. It's a raw sweet potato.
I had to do it. I haven't been fed. Ever.
You realize you aren't normal. Normal dogs don't steal raw sweet potatoes.
I was badly brought up.
Yes. Yes, you were.
By people who starved me.
Oh no, I'm not doing this again.
I exit the room, bearing sweet potato, there is a pause. There is a noise like someone trying to eat a baseball bat very, very quietly.
Oh, for the love of God.
I head off to the kitchen.
I am not eating a raw sweet potato.
You have a raw sweet potato parts all over your snout.
But you don't actually see a raw sweet potato, do you? So maybe that's just a birthmark.
Did you seriously eat a whole sweet potato?
You don't listen. I told you I wasn't eating a sweet potato.
I search around fruitlessly.
Look, no more sweet potatoes. Oh, what am I saying? This is you we're talking about here.
I go to hide all the sweet potatoes that are left, which isn't many, in the fridge, because some people cannot be trusted. Dog attempts to look thwarted. Dog does not succeed, because her tail is wagging so hard small cyclones are forming in the kitchen. I have a very bad feeling about this. There is a pause, during which I don't even bother trying to return to what I was doing. I just stand in the computer room, waiting. There is, as I wholly expected, a baseball bat eating noise. I stomp back into the kitchen.
Okay, give me the damned sweet potato.
What sweet potato?
The one in your mouth.
Oh, you did you want this? I found it lying here.
I confiscate the sweet potato and I deposit it in the locking trash can.
Let us say no more about this.
No. Oh, they be stealing my sweet potato.
I attempt to remember what I was doing before the sweet potato episode. Some 10 minutes later, I succeed and return to it. Not 1 minute later, I hear a noise which I have become all too familiar with, bonking my head on my desk.
Arg.
Arriving in kitchen.
How did you even get another sweet potato?
I have my ways.
Are you punishing me for being away for several days? I was at a funeral. You know, it wasn't fun.
How would I know? You didn't take me. You left me here with only one human to look after my needs. One human is not enough.
I shut dog in bedroom. I conduct a sweep of the kitchen to track down all remaining sweet potatoes. Wipe up random sweet potato particles from floor. Eradicate all traces of sweet potato from house. I let dog out.
Oh, so you think you've won?
I watch her go about her business with the same sense of overwhelming doom that heroines of Victorian novels get when they meet Count Sinistrous Grimbleback for the first time. Half an hour later, there is a wetter, juicier eating noise, as though someone is eating a very moist baseball bat.
What now?
Dog is hunched over the remains of a butternut squash. Dog says something garbled because her mouth is full.
Okay, fine.
I stomp over, empty entire vegetable bowl in trash.
We just won't have any root vegetables anymore. There, are you happy?
I'm not even remotely sorry. I told you I was hungry, and you went to a funeral without me.
Oh!
A half an hour later, there is another baseball bat eating noise from the kitchen. The dog, who apparently does not know how to win gracefully, has found another sweet potato, or possibly caused one to materialize from the rift. I haul chewed sweet potato parts from the mouth of a very reluctant dog to part with them.
Oh my God, how is this my life?
Don't you think it would just be easier to feed me?
Everyone go to the bedroom and stay there. Eat nothing.
Actually, I feel not so good.
Dog throws up. Vomit is very bright orange. Unfortunate details ensue. Sometime later, me attempting to rescue something from the wreckage.
So what have we learned from this?
Sweet potatoes are yummy!
I should pay more attention to crunching noises. Sweet potatoes are probably yummy.
I need a lobotomy.
And that, best beloved, and anyone else who made it through that, is what kind of day it's been. Fucking sweet potatoes. Ugh! The end.
Wonderful job, everybody. That is our first show. That has been I Also Has a Sweet Potato. They're everywhere. You can't avoid them. Next up, straight into our next show, we have I'm Comic Sans, asshole. This is from McSweeney's Internet Tendency. You may have heard of it. McSweeney's has tons of brilliant articles. They're amazing, mostly satire stuff. Trending on there right now is one called It's Decorative Gourd Season, Motherfuckers. Check it out. But this one is about and told by a font.
Listen up. I know the shit you've been saying behind my back. You think I'm stupid. You think I'm immature. You think I'm a malformed, pathetic excuse for a font. Well, think again, nerdhole, because I'm Comic Sans, and I'm the best thing to happen to typography since Johannes fucking Gutenberg. Oh, you don't like that your coworker used me on the note about stealing her yogurt from the break room fridge? You don't like that I'm all over your sister-in-law's blog? You don't like that I'm on the sign for that new Thai place? You think I'm pedestrian and tacky? Yes, the fuck what, Picasso? We all don't have 73 weights of stick-up-my-ass Helvetica sitting on our 17-inch MacBook Pros. Sorry, the entire world can't be all done in stark Eurotrash Swiss type. Sorry, some people like to have fun. Sorry, I'm standing in the way of your minimalist, Bauhaus-esque, fascist snooze fest. Maybe sometime you should take off your black turtleneck, stop compulsively adjusting your Tumblr theme, and lighten the fuck up for once. People love me. Why? Because I'm fun. I'm the life of the party. I bring levity to any situation. Need to soften the blow of a harsh message about restroom etiquette? Slam! There I am. Need to spice up the directions to your graduation party? Wham! There again. Need to convey your fun-loving, approachable nature on your business's website? Smack! Like daffodils in the motherfucking spring. When people need to kick back, have fun, and party, I will be there, unlike your pathetic font. While Gotham is at the science fair, I'm banging the prom queen behind the woodshop. While Avenir is practicing the clarinet, I'm shredding Rain and Blood on my double-neck Stratocaster. While Universe is refilling his allergy prescriptions, I'm racing my tricked-out, nitrous-laden Honda Civic against Tokyo gangsters who will kill me if I don't cross the finish line first. I'm a sans serif Superman, and my only kryptonite is pretentious buzzkills like you. Doesn't matter what you think. You know why, Jagoff? Because I'm famous. I am on every major operating system since Microsoft fucking Bob. I'm in your signs. I'm in your browsers. I'm in your instant messengers. I'm not just a font. I'm a force of motherfucking nature, and I will not rest until every uptight armchair typographer cockhat like you is surrounded by my lovable, comic book inspired, sans serif badassery. Enough of this bullshit. I'm gonna go get hammered with papyrus.
Excellent job, Megan. That was I'm Comic Sans, asshole. A wonderful rant by some wonderful writers, acted by a wonderful actor. Up next So this show wasn't posted to a well-known site like LiveJournal or McSweeney's, but it is good enough that it made its way far enough around the internet to get in front of me, and now through my filter to this show to get in front of you. This true story is so relatable, we found, that we decided to change the names in it. And you can just as easily believe that it could have been written by Stephanie.
I think the Tooth Fairy might have a problem. Now, I'm not saying she's drinking too much or doing drugs, but there are some warning signs, and I just wouldn't be a very good friend if I ignore them and assume all's well. Since you may be friends with the Tooth Fairy too, I thought we might talk about our experiences and decide together whether we need to intervene. I'll go first. I met the Tooth Fairy 7 years ago when my oldest baby girl lost her first tooth. Ellie and I placed that little baby tooth in a precious embroidered bag under her pillow that night, and my baby girl fell asleep. In a shower of glitter and gentle enthusiasm, the Tooth Fairy arrived. I admit I was starstruck after all. I waited a long time to get to meet her. I was her biggest fan when I was a kid, so when I finally had a kid of my own who warranted a call to the Tooth Fairy, well, ecstatic probably doesn't describe my excitement. So you can imagine my delight when I learned that the Tooth Fairy was as charming in real life as I'd envisioned. Her hair was immaculately coiffed, and her tiara perched perfectly upon her head. When I invited her to rest a while and join me for tea, she politely agreed. We were careful to situate her gossamer wings so they flowed gently to the sides of her chair, where they brushed lightly against her azure gown. And as we sipped, she told me tales of the children she visited. She talked about their sweet lashes, closed in sleepy surrender. She spoke of whispering happy dreams in their ears. And when our tea was gone, she slipped upstairs to take Ellie's tooth and leave behind $1 and a darling handwritten note. The Tooth Fairy was a wonder. She was a delight. Ellie, of course, was overjoyed the next morning, holding the evidence of fairy magic in her two slightly chubby hands. We read the fairy's note together, and she smiled, and so did my heart. Fast forward 7 years and dozens of teeth, and I feel like the Tooth Fairy and I are old friends. Maybe that's why I didn't notice at first her gradual but steady decline. A forgotten note here, a late arrival there, nothing to complain about as an isolated incident, you understand. I mean, there was that one time when she showed up smelling like Doritos and Bud Light, but I dismissed it. One lapse doesn't necessarily mean anything, right? But this last time, the last time caught my attention because Michael lost his second tooth yesterday. A fit of the violent wiggles and that sucker popped right out of his mouth. Victory. We put him to bed with his tooth tucked under his pillow, safely ensconced in its plastic Ziploc sandwich bag, which everyone knows is just as special as an embroidered tooth bag. And then he fell asleep. You guys, I think it's clear that Mike and I did our part. We celebrated with the kid who made a new hole in his head. We kept track of that tiny piece of human ivory as it was handled by 2 5-year-olds all day long. And we made sure it ended up under the pillow. And then we waited. And we waited. And we waited. And the Tooth Fairy didn't show. The tea got cold. I got tired. I went to bed. And this morning, I was awakened to the voice of Michael yelling, "She didn't come! The Tooth Fairy didn't come!" In my drafty t-shirt, I sprang from my bed and raced to Michael's room. Sure enough, it appeared the Tooth Fairy did not come. There was my poor boy's whittle tooth all alone in that Ziploc bag without a bit of money in sight. No money and no handwritten note. Then it hit me. All the little Tooth Fairy failings, all the warning signs I've ignored, all the nights she forgot to take teeth with her, all the times we've had to cover for her by telling our kids, well, you know, the Tooth Fairy has bad aim. That money could have landed anywhere in the house. You can't just check under your pillow. You have to check under all of the pillows. Sure enough, after looking nearly everywhere else, Michael found his coins in a pile under a pillow in my room. Okay, I'll be honest. I secretly suspect that the Tooth Fairy sometimes arrives at our house only after she hears the cosmic cries of "the Tooth Fairy didn't come." I think she shows up with bedhead and morning breath in a drafty t-shirt and hurriedly sprinkles money in random locations, and then she pretends like she did it on time. You guys, I know this post might come across as harsh and critical, and I promise you, I don't mean to publicly malign someone as upstanding as the Tooth Fairy, who's done so much good for so many years. But I really think she might need some help, an intervention, or perhaps just a week-long trip to a spa where she can sleep in and wash herself. So spill it, y'all. Hiding the truth and covering up for her helps no one. Has the Tooth Fairy been acting out of character at your house? And more importantly, do we need to meet somewhere for coffee and pedicures just so we can discuss this issue in depth? Because I don't know about you, but I am committed to getting to the bottom of this. Looking forward to hearing from you, Stephanie.
Thank you, Stephanie. Wonderful reading of a story that you have some experience nearby of. We have spoken about this. There has been a similar story at the Haddad household. The next story might be the most famous story on our list, which is a list of internet stories which still deserve a bigger audience than they had so far. You might not have heard it before. This one has its own Wikipedia page. This is about a Dungeons & Dragons game that happened back in the early 80s, and it is now a cornerstone of gaming culture.
In the early 70s, Ed Whitechurch ran his game, and one of the participants was Eric Sorensen. Eric plays something like a computer. When he games, he methodically considers each possibility before choosing his preferred option. If given time, he will invariably pick the optimal solution. It has been known to take weeks. He is otherwise, in all respects, a superior gamer. Eric was playing a neutral paladin in Ed's game. He was on some lord's land when the following exchange occurred.
Okay, so you see a well-groomed garden, and in the middle, on a small hill, you see a gazebo.
A gazebo. All right. What color is it?
Well, it's white, Eric.
Okay. How far away is it?
About 50 yards.
And how big is it?
It's about 30 feet across, maybe 15 feet high, has kind of a pointed top.
Okay. I used my sword to detect good on it. Yep.
It's not good, Eric. It's a gazebo.
Well, I call out to it.
No, it won't answer. It's a gazebo.
Okay. I sheath my sword and I draw my bow and arrows. Does it respond in any way?
What? No, Eric. It's a gazebo.
All right. Well, I shoot it with my bow.
Oh.
What happened?
Okay, there is now a gazebo with an arrow sticking out of it.
What? Wasn't it wounded?
Of course not, Eric. It's a gazebo.
But that was a +3 arrow.
Eric, it's a gazebo, Eric. A gazebo. If you really, really want to try to destroy it, you could try to chop it with an axe, I suppose, or you could try to burn it. But I don't know why anyone would even try. It's a fucking gazebo.
Eric has no axe, nor fire spells.
Oh, no. I run away.
Nope. It's too late. You've awakened the gazebo. It catches you and it eats you.
Well, maybe I'll roll up a fire-using mage so I can avenge my paladin.
At this point, the increasingly amused fellow party members restored a modicum of order by explaining to Eric what a gazebo is. It could have been worse. At least the gazebo wasn't a grassy knoll. Thus ends the tale of Eric and the Dread Gazebo.
Such a fun story. Deserves many readings at parties and now on the internet. It's had many readings on the internet. I'm adding to the pile and I'm not worried about it. It's just so good. Next up, next story, Neighborhood Hazard. This is another post from some random person's blog. And it actually took me a while to find the original source because I went through chains of people copying and pasting the story across various forums. Well, tonight, my friend Mike will do what he does best and tell you an absurd and hilarious story.
I never dreamed that slowly cruising on my motorcycle through a residential neighborhood could be so incredibly dangerous. Little did I suspect. I was on Bryce Street, a very nice neighborhood with perfect lawns, slow traffic. As I passed an oncoming car, a brown furry missile shot out from under it and tumbled to a stop immediately in front of me. It was a squirrel, and it must have been trying to run across the road when it encountered the car. I really was not going very fast, but there was no time to brake or avoid it. It was that close. I hate to run over animals, and I really hate it on a motorcycle. But a squirrel should pose no danger to me. I barely had time to brace for the impact. Animal lovers, never fear. Squirrels, I discovered, can take care of themselves. Inches before impact, the squirrel flipped to his feet. He was standing on his hind legs and facing my oncoming Valkyrie with steadfast resolve in his beady little eyes. His mouth opened, and at the last possible second, he screamed and leapt. I'm pretty sure the scream was squirrel for "Banzai!" Or maybe "Die, you gravy-sucking heathen scum!" The leap was nothing short of spectacular, as he shot straight up, flew over my windshield, and impacted me squarely in the chest. Instantly, he set upon me. If I did not know better, I would have sworn he brought 20 of his little buddies along for the attack. Snarling, hissing, and tearing at my clothes, he was a frenzy of activity. As I was dressed only in a light t-shirt, summer riding gloves, and jeans, this was a bit of a cause for concern. This furry little tornado was doing some damage. Picture a large man on a huge black and chrome cruiser, dressed in jeans, a t-shirt, and leather gloves, puttering at maybe 25 miles per hour down a quiet residential street. And in the fight of his life with a squirrel. And losing! I grabbed for him with my left hand. After a few misses, I finally managed to snag his tail, and with all my strength, I flung the evil rodent off to the left of the bike, almost running into the right curb as I recoiled from the throw. That should have done it. The matter should have ended right there. It really should have. The squirrel could have sailed into one of the pristinely kept yards and gone about his squirrel business, and I could have headed home. No one would have been the wiser. But this was no ordinary squirrel. This was not even an ordinary angry squirrel. This was an evil, mutant attack squirrel of death! Somehow, he caught my gloved finger with one of his little hands, and with the force of the throw, swung around and with a resounding thump. An amazing impact, he landed squarely on my back and resumed his rather antisocial and extremely distracting activities. He also managed to take my left glove with him. The situation was not improved. Not improved at all. His attacks were continuing, and now I couldn't reach him. I was startled, to say the least. The combination of the force of the throw, only having one hand, the throttle hand on the handlebars, and my jerking back, unfortunately, put a healthy twist through my right hand and into the throttle. A healthy twist on the throttle of a Valkyrie can only have one result: torque. This is what the Valkyrie is made for, and she is very, very good at it. The engine roared, and the front wheel left the pavement. The squirrel screamed in anger, the Valkyrie screamed in ecstasy, and I screamed in... Well, I just plain screamed. Now picture a large man on a huge black and chrome cruiser, dressed in jeans, a slightly squirrel-torn t-shirt, wearing only one leather glove, and roaring at maybe 50 miles an hour, and rapidly accelerating down a quiet residential street on one wheel with a demonic squirrel of death on his back. The man and the squirrel are both screaming bloody murder. With the sudden acceleration, I was forced to put my other hand back on the handlebars and try to get control of the bike. This was leaving the mutant squirrel to his own devices, but I really did not want to crash into somebody's tree, house, or parked car. Also, I had not yet figured out how to release the throttle. My brain was just simply overloaded at that point. I did manage to mash the back brake, but it had little effect against the massive power of the big cruiser. About this time, the squirrel decided that I was not paying sufficient attention to this very serious battle. Perhaps he was an evil mutant Nazi attack squirrel of death. And he came around my neck, and he got inside my full face helmet with me. As the faceplate closed part way, he began hissing in my face. I'm quite sure my screaming changed intensity. It had little effect on the squirrel, however. The RPMs on the dragon maxed out since I was not bothering with shifting at the moment, so her front end started to drop. Now picture a large man on a huge black and chrome cruiser, dressed in jeans, a very raggedy torn t-shirt, wearing only one leather glove, roaring at probably 80 miles per hour, still on one wheel, with a large puffy squirrel's tail sticking out of the mostly closed full-face helmet. By now, the screams are probably getting a little hoarse. Finally, I got the upper hand. I managed to grab the tail again and pulled him out of my helmet and slung him to the left as hard as I could. This time, it worked. Sort of. Spectacularly, sort of, so to speak. Picture a new scene. You're a cop. You and your partner have pulled off on a quiet residential street and parked with your windows down to do some paperwork. Suddenly, a large man on a huge black and chrome cruiser, dressed in jeans, a torn t-shirt, flapping in the breeze, and wearing only one leather glove, moving at probably 80 miles per hour on one wheel and screaming bloody murder, roars by, and with all his strength, throws a live squirrel grenade directly into your police car. I heard screams. They weren't mine. I managed to get the big motorcycle under control and drop the front wheel to the ground. I then used maximum braking and skidded to a stop in a cloud of tire smoke at the stop sign of a busy cross street. I would have returned to fess up and to get my glove back. I really would have, honestly. Except for two things. First, the cops did not seem interested or the slightest bit concerned about me at the moment. When I looked back, the doors on both sides of the patrol car were flung wide open. The cop from the passenger side was on his back, doing a crab walk into somebody's front yard, quickly moving away from the car. The cop who had been in the driver's seat was standing in the street, aiming a riot shotgun at his own police car. So the cops were not interested in me. You know, they often insist to let the professionals handle it, right? That was one thing. The other? Well, I could clearly see shredded and flying pieces of foam and upholstery from the back seat. But I could also swear I saw the squirrel in the back window, shaking his little fist at me. That is one dangerous squirrel. And now he has a patrol car. A somewhat shredded patrol car, but it was all his. I took a deep breath, turned on my turn signal, made a gentle right turn off of Bryce Street, and sedately left the neighborhood. I decided it was best to just buy myself a new pair of gloves and a whole lot of Band-Aids.
Oh my goodness, Mike. Such intensity for a tale which requires so much intensity. Very well done. I'm sure everyone at home is clapping and laughing along with me. All right, we're on to our next show. I've had this one bookmarked for a long time. I have no idea where or when I came across it, but like so many of these, it's just too funny not to share. The only thing I know about it is that someone named Scylla wrote it on the message boards of The Straight Dope. So, Ben, take it away.
Okay. Last week, while traveling, I stopped at a Zany Brainy store and saw that they had a blimp for sale. It's called Airship Earth, and it's a great big balloon with a map of the Earth on it and 2 propellers hanging from the bottom. You blow up the balloon with helium, put batteries in it, and you have a radio-controlled indoor blimp. I'd seen these things for sale in the Sharper Image catalog for $60, $75. At Zany Brainy, it was on clearance for $15. What a deal! Last night, my wife was playing tennis, and it was just my daughter and me at home. So I bought a small helium tank from a party store, and last night we put the blimp together. Let me tell you, it is quite a blimp. It's huge. The balloon has like a 3-foot diameter. So we blew it up with the tank. We attached the gondola with the propellers and put in the batteries. Then we balanced the blimp for neutral buoyancy with this sort of putty that came with it. So it hangs in the air by itself, neither rising nor falling. It was easy and fun. And then I blew up another balloon and made the Mickey Mouse helium voices for my daughter. My 3-year-old loved it. We flew that blimp all over the house, terrorized the dog, attacked the fish tank, and the controls were so easy my daughter could fly it. Let's face it, blimps are fun. Alas, the fun had to end eventually, and my daughter had to go to sleep. I left the blimp floating in the office downstairs. My wife came home, and we went to bed and slept the sleep of the righteous. Now, at this point, it is important to know that my house has central heating. I have it configured to blow hot air out on the ground floor and take it in at the second floor in order to take advantage of the fact that heat rises. The blimp, which was up until this moment a fun toy, here embarked on a career of evil. Using the artificial convection of my central heating, the blimp stealthily departed my office. It moved silently through the living room, drifting to the staircase. Gliding wraith-like over the stairs, it then entered the bedroom, where my wife and I lay sleeping peacefully. Running silently, gliding 6 feet or so above the ground on invisible and tiny air currents, it approached the bed. In spite of its noiseless passage, or perhaps because of it, I awoke. That doesn't really say it properly. Let me try that again. I awoke the way you awake at 2 a.m. when your sleeping senses suddenly tell you without reason that the forces of evil are converging on you. Now that still doesn't do it. Let me try one more time. I awoke the way you awake when you suddenly know that there is a large, levitating, sinister presence hovering towards you with menacing intent through the malignant darkness. Now, sometimes I do wake up in the middle of the night thinking that there are large, sinister, and menacing things floating out of the darkness to do me and mine evil. Usually, I open my eyes, look, listen carefully, decide it was a false alarm, and I go back to sleep. So the fact that I awoke in such a manner is not all that unusual. On this occasion, I awoke to the sense that there was a large menacing presence approaching me silently out of the gloom. So I opened my eyes, and there it was. A large, silent, menacing presence was approaching me out of the gloom, and it could fly. Somewhere in the control room of my mind, a fat little dwarf in a security outfit was paging through a penthouse while smoking a cigar with his feet up on the table, watching the security monitors of my brain out of his peripheral vision. Suddenly, he saw the large, sinister, silent menace floating presence coming at me, and he pulled every panic switch and hit every alarm that my body has. A full decade's allotment of adrenaline was dumped into my bloodstream all at once. My metabolism went from restful sleep mode to holy shit, fight for your life or die in about a nanosecond. My heart went from 20-something beats a minute to about 240 even faster. I always knew this was going to happen, right? I always knew that skepticism and science were mere psychological decorations and vanities. Deep in our alligator brains, we all know that the world is just chock full of evil and monsters and sinister forces aligned against us, and it is only a matter of time until they show up. Evolution knows this too. It knows what to do when the silent terror comes at you from out of the dark. When 50 million years worth of evolutionary survival instincts hit you all at once, flat in the gut at 200 miles an hour, it is not a pleasant sensation. Without volition, I screamed my battle cry, which is indistinguishable from the sound of little girl mates when you drop a spider down her dress. Not that I'd know what that would sound like. And leapt out of my bed in my underwear. I struck the approaching menace with all of my strength and almost fell over at the total lack of resistance that a helium balloon offers when you punch the living shit out of it with all the strength that sudden middle of the night terror produces. Its trajectory took it straight into the ceiling fan, which proceeded to whip it about the room at terrifying velocity. Seeking a weapon, I ripped the alarm clock out of the wall and hurled it at the now high-velocity menacing presence, breaking the clock and putting a nice hole in the wall. Somehow, at this moment, I suddenly realized that I was fighting the blimp and not a monster. Now, it might have been funny if I didn't truly and actually feel like I was having a legitimate heart attack. On quivering legs, I went to the bathroom and literally gagged into the toilet while shaking uncontrollably with the shock of the reaction I'd had. Unbelievably, both my wife and daughter completely slept through the incident. Once I decided I wasn't having a heart attack after all, I went back into the bedroom and found the blimp, which had somehow survived the incident. I took it to my walk-in closet and released it inside, where it floated around with the air currents released from the vents in there. Closed the door, thus sealing it in, and went back to bed. About 500 years later, I fell asleep. At about 7 in the morning, my wife awoke. She had been playing tennis, wasn't aware that we had assembled the blimp the previous evening, and that it was now floating around the walk-in closet, that she approached. Now, the dynamic between the existing air currents in the closet and the suction caused by opening the door was just enough to give the blimp the appearance of an evil, sinister menace flying straight towards her. This time, the blimp did not survive the encounter, nor almost did I, as I had to explain to my very angry spouse what motivated me to hide an evil lurking presence in the closet for her to find at 7 a.m. I can order replacement balloons on the internet, but I don't think I will. Some blimps are better off dead.
It is performances like that that make me feel justified that these things really need to just be read aloud to people. Wonderful job, Ben. Thank you so much for reading that for all of us. Our next show comes from Reddit. So Reddit is an interesting place. It's an interesting little corner of the internet. Think of a topic. No, a more narrow topic than that. There's a place on Reddit where people talk about that all the time. So this one comes from a subreddit called TIFU, which stands for Today I Fucked Up. That describes itself as a community for the dumbass in all of us. We all have those moments when we do something ridiculously stupid, share your stories, and laugh along with the internet. The author of this one was so embarrassed by it, they made up a single-use throwaway account, Defenestrate Me Now, just to post this. So now, performed and read aloud again for your enjoyment, Window Steak.
Today, I fucked up by throwing my steak out a window. Last night, my wife's boss from her brand new job invited us over for dinner. On the drive over, my wife reiterated many times to me,
"It's very important to make a good impression."
I scoffed and arrogantly informed my silly wife that
I always make good impressions.
my wife's boss is a single lady in her 50s, so it was just the three of us. We chit-chatted over drinks and salads and seemed to be really hitting it off. She laughed at my well-timed, perfectly appropriate jokes, and my wife seemed pleased. Soon, she brought out the main course, a nice, big, juicy steak for each of us. As I began to cut into my steak, I was discouraged to discover how undercooked this steak was. Now, I have had my fair share of rare steak. I prefer medium, but I can handle rare. This was several minutes on a hot grill short of rare. I probably could have resuscitated the cow had I tried. Instead, I sat there fidgeting with my knife and fork, worrying about how I was going to get away with not eating this steak. Claim veganism? No, I had already feigned great enthusiasm upon seeing the steak. Just then, our hostess excused herself to the kitchen to take care of some dessert preparations. As I looked across the fancy dining room table at the open window of this third-story apartment, a cartoon light bulb appeared over my head. I knew I had to be decisive, realizing that she could return at any moment. I committed. I grabbed that steak with my hand, gently shook off the juice, and executed a perfect throw right through the center of that open window. And here's the big time fuck up. The window wasn't open. It was the cleanest freaking window you've ever seen in your life. Well, that is until my mostly raw slab of steak slammed up against it and slowly slid down, leaving a trail of bloody juice in its wake. My wife, whose steak was a nice medium and was unaware of my predicament, turned, jaw dropped, and stared at me like I was an alien from another planet. This look then slowly morphed into a more there is no place on this planet you can ever hide from me expression of demonic anger. My wife's boss heard the thud of the stake on window impact and came quickly. She took in the scene, the stake sitting on the windowsill, the blood trail, my empty plate, gave me an inquisitive, puzzled look. I just didn't know what to say. It felt like a minute of silence, but it was probably 3 or 4 seconds. Finally, the best I could manage was...
I'm so sorry. I'm such a klutz. I don't know. I was just cutting it, and it slipped. Just ask my wife. I really am a klutz, right, honey?
No help coming from that direction.
I will clean this up. I can't believe this. I'm so sorry.
Etc., etc. Both women continued to stare at me like I had escaped from the loony bin as I smeared the blood around the window with my cloth napkin, dusted off the stake, and continued to mutter my incoherent explanation.
I swear, I don't.
I knew no one was buying the story. I knew what I had to do. I sheepishly returned to my seat, proceeded to eat every bite of that disgusting, cold, chewy, bloody, raw steak. I remained quiet the rest of the evening. My wife's only 2 words to me since the incident are...
I'm fine.
Update. Just got the first post I'm fine communication from my wife via text.
Good news. My boss and I just had a good laugh over how much of a fucking idiot you are. I hope you know you will never live this down. Love you, you moron.
The end. Another wonderful story told by some wonderful people. Oh my God. Reddit. Am I right? All right. Next up. An open letter to the female hat-wearing dog from Go Dog Go is a glorious blog post taking on the weak plot and characters of a children's book with a modern, grown-up take on its underlying assumptions. Go for it, Elizabeth.
Dear female hat-wearing dog, I bought your book to help my son learn prepositions and adjectives and was, from the first read, inexorably drawn in by your heart-wrenching struggle for approval. Momentarily distracted by the humdrum parade of big dogs, little dogs, black and white dogs, I watched as you walked in, brimming with joy and confidence, and looked on as some total nobody, indistinguishable from most other dogs in this book, crushed you with his subtle rejection.
Hello.
Oh, hello.
Do you like my hat?
I do not. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
And you don't even know me, but I wanted to take a minute to tell you that what matters is that you like your own hat-wearing female dog. Who is this guy anyway? Some sort of dog hat expert? Who cares what he thinks? Wear a hat you love, and if he doesn't like it, fuck him. I want you to take this in, hat-wearing female dog, lest you spend the next 15 years of your life trying to impress someone who is not worth your time. Ignore the hat-based norms of the dog universe and wear what makes you happy. Celebrate yourself. You are awesome and unique, like that dancing 11-year-old in the blonde wig from Sia's Chandelier video, only a dog version. So, you try again.
Hello again.
Oh. Hello.
And not only does he shut you down once again.
Do you like my hat?
I do not like it. Goodbye again.
Goodbye.
He literally steals the feather out of your hat as he rides off on his scooter. OMG, what is his issue, right? Screw him and his dumb scooter and his half-hearted 4-day later follow-up text messages. Not into your hat, babe. You look cute, though. If you're seeking approval because you're itching to be in a relationship right now, know that there are other fish in the sea. And more importantly, bazillions of other dogs in this book. Without even looking, I found some big dogs and some little dogs going around in cars. I found a red dog on a blue tree. I found a green dog on a yellow tree. I found 2 dogs in a house, on a boat, in the water, and 3 dogs at a party on a boat at night, all of whom seem single, ready to mingle, and possibly capable of empathy. The female to male dog ratio in this book is totally in your favor. So why are you selling yourself short? Admittedly, this is like the world's most pathetic party, but in fairness, they seem like nice guys. Forget this dude who isn't into your hats. It shouldn't be hard. He is so completely and totally forgettable because P.D. Eastman draws all dogs more or less identically. And yet, like so many cartoon female dogs, you only have eyes for some generic nobody who can't see how freaking fantastic you are. You confront this guy a 3rd time, desperately searching for the hat validation that since childhood you've been told you need.
Do you like my hat?
I am just a boy standing in front of a girl telling her that I don't like her hat.
It is not about the hat. Are you listening? It doesn't matter if he likes your hat or not. I want you to feel the burning radiation of your self-worth as you say, this is me. This is who I am. If you're not into me because I'm wearing an uncomfortably long ski hat, maybe this is not the right relationship for either of us. But you're not ready to do that. And like so many relationships, it comes to a head at a party. A dog party, a big dog party. Unlike that other party that consisted of 3 dogs, a checkerboard, a banjo, and a lollipop, this one is actually like a legit party. Big dogs, little dogs, red dogs, blue dogs are all at a dog party. What? A dog party. And you show up looking totally cute, and you approach him again. In fairness, I admire your tenacity, and ask one final time if he likes your latest hat. A hat topped with a flower pot and a pennant flag, one that has no fewer than 2 spiders and a goldfish dangling off it. A hat that features a bouquet of lollipops and 3 candy canes in close proximity to a mop that clearly you only put on because you lost a bet. This hat is Vera Wang's living nightmare. So you ask if he likes your hat, and he's like,
yes, I like it. I like that party hat.
Yay!
And you guys drive off together into the sunset. And it seems like an idyllic future. Except that there is literally no way you can wear this hat every day without sustaining major neck damage. So you guys settle down, date for a few months, maybe move in together, but eventually you get to a point where you're like, I sort of don't want to wear this hat every day just to keep this relationship going. And honestly, at this point, he's not even into the hat anymore because the novelty is wearing off. The sex isn't as good. You lie awake in bed next to each other, staring at your phones as you frantically wonder if you should buy a new hat to spice things up. Have you gone right back to being invisible? Who are you to him now? Just a series of crazy Mardi Gras style hats? Assess your value, female hat wearing dog. Take a minute to really look at yourself in the mirror and say,
I am a moderately well-drawn ketchup-colored poodle, and my storyline is the closest thing this book has to a plot. I am the only thing pulling this narrative along. I'm well-groomed, enjoy skiing, and I have enough disposable income to amass a comfortable hat wardrobe.
And then feel free to ask your reflection if it likes your hat. And if your reflection is like...
Girl, you look amazing regardless of whether or not you even wear a hat.
Maybe ditch this mustard-colored moron who immediately ends a date when he's not digging the girl's hat because you're terrific and life is short and shit like that's not worth your time.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. OMG, Elizabeth, that was incredible. You totally inhabited the character of that person writing that blog. Thank you also for wearing your strong feminist character, strong female character shirt just for the part. All right. We're back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back to Reddit. Brothers in Church is our other tale from Reddit, and coincidentally, it also comes from the TIFU subreddit. Apparently, they're just good at telling stories that are good for reading aloud there. Also, coincidentally, believe it or not, we happened to choose Mack to read this one as well.
Today I fucked up by ripping an incredible fart in church. To set the stage a bit, we're in Rhode Island in the 90s, and myself and my two younger brothers are the children of Italian immigrants. We are descended from the kind of stoic Catholicism you read about. Church is a solemn, Gothic affair with a lot of silence in between the call and response that makes up a normal Sunday service. Church was a big deal to my parents at the time, and you were not to fuck around during it. Knowing that, I have to wonder what got into my folks' heads when we went out to breakfast prior to church and wound up at this small eatery in Wakefield called the Bluebird Cafe. Going out for breakfast pre-church was rare, but for some reason the decision was made to have breakfast at this family and eschew our normal 9 a.m. service for the one at 11 a.m. instead. On top of that, this place has really good food, but it's also very heavy depending on what you order. The portions are also gargantuan, which our server warned us about when all three of us boys tried to individually order huevos rancheros. But we protested. We were totally old enough to eat an entire plate of this ourselves. Bearing in mind, I was 13, middle son was 11, youngest was 9. Our parents acquiesced, and we all got our individual plates of food. Now, the huevos rancheros at this place, it isn't like a tortilla with an egg on it, mind you. Oh no, it's a giant fuck-off dinner plate-sized flour patty with about 3 pounds of black beans on it, plus onions, a huge helping of grits, something like 4 eggs, and an alarming amount of melted cheese and copious hot sauce. One plate is enough to comfortably feed an average human for a day and a half. I couldn't finish mine. Believe me, I tried. Youngest son didn't even get halfway through. Middle son ate the entire thing in 45 seconds. He hoovered it up like it was going to get up and run away from him after a couple of minutes. I'm sure somewhere in the back of their heads, my parents could sense the brewing storm. But they said nothing at this point. They did say something about an hour later as we were driving to church, and my brother nonchalantly coughed a few times and then trumpet blasted out an ungodly long fart in the backseat of the car. It had to have lifted him a foot in the air. I'm pretty sure his seatbelt locked because of it. It sounded like a dying goose put through a megaphone and ended with a pretty bad gurgling noise. He may have, shit his pants at this point. Naturally, myself and the youngest brother instantly lose our minds and are howling with laughter, while my increasingly pissed dad is trying to find a parking spot. By that point, the smell had ballooned into the entire cabin of the car, and my mom was making gagging noises and frantically trying to get all the windows rolled down, while the middle kid sat there grinning like an idiot. And the other two of us were gasping for air because of Well, the fart smell / uncontrollable laughter. It smelled like a carcass in there for days afterwards. It was bad. So we finally find a parking spot. My poor dad is trying to get us to take this whole church thing semi-seriously, and all three of us have the worst case of the giggles we've ever had in years. He scolds my brother to...
Don't be disgusting in church, or I'm going to be really angry. It's not funny.
And finally, he just gives up because this is falling on obviously deaf ears for the most part. So he just kind of grabs us all and collectively frog marches us inside. Okay, so Catholics / churchgoers out there. You guys all know the bit about the Lord's Prayer where it goes, the kingdom and the power and the glory forever and ever. And the entire congregation goes, amen. So, well, my brother needed to fart again. He'd been holding this in for the better part of an hour-long service at this point, and clearly by about the 45-minute mark, he'd come to the realization that I need to fart had become I'm going to fart. He was cognizant of my dad's dire warning not to do this, so in his head, he concocted a brilliant plan to time his fart for the amen part, hoping that the sound of an entire packed room of people chanting a single syllable would be enough to mask the sound, if maybe not the smell. So we went for it. Problem is, he mistimed it by about 1.5 seconds. It wound up going something like this.
For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever and ever. Amen.
Beat of absolute total silence. Ear-splitting, subwoofer-grade bucket of chum being emptied into the ocean, 5-second-long fart blast which echoed off the walls in the pin-drop silent room. It was bad, you guys. It was bad. The smell hit an old lady behind us a few seconds later, and she actually gave a sort of panicked grunt, clutched at her face. So after this horrid fart sound, this poor old lady, you just heard her going, "Oh!" and reeling backwards into the pew as the smell of rotting kid fart assaulted her and everyone around her. Now, my brother is trying to pinch it off pretty desperately, which just makes it worse because it goes from this massive boom to a sort of squeaking out like a duck before he finally manages to clench enough to keep it in. As this is going on, picture 3 boys, all standing there, 100% straight up, with looks of absolute neutrality on their face. Because that was us trying unbelievably hard not to totally lose our shit and laugh for the next 6 hours straight uncontrollably. While we were doing an admirable job of all this, our faces were beet red. Whereas, because my brother had pinched off a bit of fart, he was concentrating so hard on not launching into riotous laughter that his concentration would slip, and a little squeak of fart would come out. This went on for the next 30 seconds or so, interrupting our poor priest as he tried to continue the sermon. Every time he tried to finish a sentence, you'd hear this little fart, and then sort of a quiet as we tried so hard not to laugh. All the while, the swamp stench of digested egg was drifting around our pew, and entire families were trying to discreetly shuffle away from us. To Dad's credit, he didn't go ballistic on us when that was over. He just looked disappointed and relieved to be out of there. The 3 of us did not stop laughing until around dinner, and my dad just kind of gave up on the idea of having some kind of punishment and just decided we weren't going to go back to that church for a while. It remains the single best farting in church thing that has ever happened.
It certainly is. Oh my goodness. Fart jokes, people, am I right? They never get old. And that is just the king of fart jokes. It keeps going. Oh my God. Okay, we're moving away from Reddit now. That was our last Reddit post, and we're moving on to our first of 2 Tumblr posts. So, I mean, there's so many great Tumblr threads. Some of you are already aware. So many they'll spill out of Tumblr and get posted on Reddit or Facebook or whatever. I barely even ever opened Tumblr myself, and I've already read so much stuff that was on there. So yeah, tonight we're telling 2 Tumblr tales. This one had so many multiple contributors and characters they made up, I had to collapse them all down to involve only a few actors. So now we will read for you the United Federation of Hold My Beer, I Got This.
Random headcanon. That Federation vessels in Star Trek seem to experience bizarre malfunctions with such overwhelming frequency isn't just an artifact of the television serial format. Rather, it's because the Federation as a culture are a bunch of deranged hyper-neophiles tooling around in ships packed full of beyond cutting-edge tech they don't really understand. Endlessly frustrating if you have to fight them because they can just pull an effectively unlimited number of bullshit space magic countermeasures out of their arses, but they're as likely as not to give themselves a lethal 5-dimensional wedgie in the process. All those rampant hologram and warp core malfunctions and accidentally traveling back in time incidents, that doesn't actually happen to anyone else. It's literally just Federation vessels that go off the rails like that. And they do so on a fairly regular basis.
So to everyone else in the galaxy, all humans are basically Doc Brown.
Aliens who have seen Back to the Future movies literally don't realize that Doc Brown is meant to be funny. They're just like, yes, that is exactly what all human scientists are like in my experience.
The only reason Scotty is chief engineer instead of someone from a species with a higher technological aptitude is because everyone from those species took one look at the Enterprise's engine room and ran away screaming.
Why do you need another warp core?
We're gonna plug 2 of them together and see if we can go twice as fast.
Last time we gave you a warp core, you threw it into a sun to see if the sun would go twice as fast.
Yeah, it did though.
It exploded.
It exploded twice as fast.
Oh my god, I love this, especially because of how well it plays with my headcanon that the Federation does so much better against the Borg than anyone else because beating the Borg with military tactics is nigh impossible, but beating them with wacky super science shenanigans works as long as they're unique wacky super science shenanigans.
It reminds me of this thing I wrote a while back about humans in high fantasy realms. They're basically team, fuck it, hold my beer, I got this. Impulsive, passionate to a fault, the social structures they build to try and regulate this hot-headedness ironically create even greater levels of sheer bullheadedness. Even their cooler heads take action in months or weeks. All their great heroes of the past were impossibly rash by galactic standards. Humans just go with it, which is their great flaw, but also their greatest strength.
Okay, we don't get it.
Get what?
You Vulcans are a bunch of stuffy prisses, but you're also tougher, stronger, and smarter than humans in every single way. Why do you let them run your Federation?
Look, this is a species where if you give them 2 warp cores, they don't do experiments on one and save the other for if the first one blows up. This is a species where if you give them 2 warp cores, they will ask for a third one, immediately plug all 3 into each other, punch a hole into an alternate universe where humans subscribe to an even more destructive ideological system, fight everyone in it because they're offended by that, steal their warp cores, plug those together, punch their way back here, then try to turn a nearby sun into a torus because that was what their initial scientific experiment was for, and they didn't want to waste a trip. They did that last week. We have the write-up right here. It's getting published in about 600 scientific journals across 200 different disciplines because of how many established theories their ridiculous expedition has just called into question. Also, they did turn that sun into a Taurus, and no one actually knows how. This is why we let them do whatever the hell they want.
Can we be a part of your federation? Come to think of it, I mean, look at the first, the first human warp drive, that thing in the movie. That was not how Vulcans would have done it.
You know what the best evidence for this is? Deep Space Nine almost never broke down. Minor malfunctions that irritated O'Brien to hell and back, sure, but almost none of the truly weird shit that befell Voyager and all the Starship's Enterprise. What was the weirdest malfunction DS9 ever had? The senior staff getting trapped in a holosuite as holosuite characters in Our Man Bashir, and that was because a human decided to dump the transporter buffer into the station's core memory and hope everything would just work out somehow, which is a bit like swapping your computer's hard drive out for a memory card from a PlayStation 2 and expecting to be able to play Spyro the Dragon with your keyboard and mouse. You know what? I'm not done with this post. Let's talk about the Pegasus. The USS fucking Pegasus, test bed for the first Starfleet cloaking device. Here we have a handful of humans working in secret to develop a cloaking device in violation of a treaty with the Romulans. They're playing catch up, trying to develop a technology other species have had for a century. And what do? Do they decide to duplicate a Romulan cloaking device precisely just to see if they can match what other species have? Nope. They decide, hey, while we're at it, while we're building our very first one of these things, just to find out if it's possible, let's see if we can this thing phase out of normal space so we can fly through planets while we're invisible.
But why?
Said the one Vulcan in the room.
Because that would fucking rule,
said the humans, high-fiving each other and slamming cans of 24th century Red Bull. There must be like 20 different counseling groups for non-human engineering students at Starfleet Academy, and every week in every single one of them, someone walks in and starts up with a story like, our assignment was to repair a phaser emitter, and my one human classmate built a chronometric flux toaster that toasts bread after you've eaten it.
Humans get mildly offended by the way they're presented in non-human media. Like,
guys, we totally wouldn't do that.
But this always fails to get much traction because the authors can always say, you totally did.
That was one time.
There's that movie where humans invented vaccines by just testing them on people. Or the one about those two humans who invented powered flight by crashing a bunch of prototypes. Or the one about electricity. And human historians go,
this is historically accurate, but also kind of boring.
To which the producers respond, how is doing this crazy thing boring? There are entire series of horror movies where the premise is, we stopped paying attention to the human and they found the technology.
During orientation at a human college, Vulcans are presented with a list of swear words.
What is the word fuck for? Surely there are more logical intensity modifiers.
Yeah, you'd think so. You'd really fucking think so.
There is a phrase in Vulcan for that particular moment you understand what the word fuck is for.
This is why the Federation is the only organization to ever stand a chance against the Borg. The Borg can adapt to the military brilliant strategies of the Romulan Star Empire, the Klingons, and even the cold logical intellectual prowess of the Vulcans. The Borg weren't prepared for a starship captain to lure them into his 50s noir detective holonovel and then machine gun them to death with a weapon made out of hard light.
The best thing about this post is that the way it's written, by multiple human authors getting overexcited about ridiculous, wonderful, impossible ideas that ought by rights to be terrifying. It's proof itself that we are like this.
So wonderful. You can just imagine that random headcanon flying around of all sorts of things. I mean, check out Tumblr, or don't. It can be kind of scary, honestly. Everyone, you are wonderful. Thank you so much. It's such a hilarious story. Okay, so we're staying on Tumblr for a bit. One more story from there. Our second Tumblr story has just one author this time and involves one dog. Random headcanon. This dog is the same one as the one back in I Has a Sweet Potato and Go Doug Go, and also Dogs in Elk, which is going to be coming up next. So, Jess, tell us about this dog.
We trained the dog so that when he wants out, he goes to the front door and waits. Somehow, in his little golden retriever brain, he interpreted this to mean go to the front door and lick it. If he's at the door but isn't licking it, he doesn't need to go out. He's just chilling. So this was our routine. When he wants out, he goes to the front door and licks it. And then we moved house, and he got very, very confused. He knew he had to go to the front door when he wants out, but this was a new house with obviously a door that was completely new to him. Despite our condo having only one door that leads outside and him going out this very door literally at least 5 times a day, every day for about a year, he still has no idea where the front door is in our house. Absolutely no idea at all. Now, whenever he needs out, he will go to any random door and start licking it. And I mean any door. The bathroom door, my bedroom door, my closet, the goddamn door of the kitchen cabinet even. I don't know if he's really smart or really dumb, because clearly he understands conceptually what a door is. I don't know if he thinks my closet is kitchen cabinets lead outside, or if he's just hoping to find doggy Narnia, or if he's just hopelessly given up on ever being able to find the door by himself and is just doing the best he can. But every goddamn time he wants out, he's right there licking the glass door to the shower or something. He doesn't alert us that he needs to go out in any other way. So if you haven't seen him in a while, you have to search room by room until you find him with his tongue pressed up against the linen closet because he thinks it's the outside door might be that way. He is the biggest, dumbest dog I have ever met in my life. I do not love him anymore. He is perfect. And here he is, patiently licking the door of my wardrobe.
And that wasn't a Google image search for a dog licking a door or anything. That's right there in the Tumblr post. Oh my God, Jess. So funny. I sure hope he does eventually find Doggy Narnia. All right, as promised, Dogs in Elk. This is another semi-famous internet classic. This one goes as far back as Usenet, which was even before my interneting time. This showed up on rec.pets in 1999 and has just circled around the net ever since. Just like the Star Trek Tumblr thread, various usernames were involved here. We decided to pick our own for tonight. So for your viewing safety also, I've been careful with my slideshow choices here. You'll see what I mean. So, Elizabeth, please tell us your tale of Dogs in Elk.
Okay, I know how to take meat away from a dog. How do I take a dog away from meat? This is not, unfortunately, a joke.
Can you give us a few more specifics here?
They're inside of it. They crawled inside, and now I have a giant, incredibly heavy piece of carcass in my yard with 2 dogs inside of it, and they are not getting bored of it and coming out. One of them is snoring. I have company arriving in 3 hours, and my current plan is to, 1, put a tent over said carcass, and 2, hang thousands of fly strips inside it. This has been going on since about 6:40 this morning.
Oh my God. What sort of carcass is big enough to hold a couple of dogs inside? Given the situation, I'm afraid you're not going to be able to create enough of a diversion to get the dogs out of the carrion. Unless, like, greeting company, they like greeting company as much as they like rolling around in dead stuff, which seems unlikely.
Elk. Elk are very big this year because of the rain and good grazing and so forth. They aren't rolling. They are alternately napping and eating. They each have a rib cage. Other dogs are working on them from the outside. It's all way too primal in my yard right now.
Can you turn a hose on the festivities?
Oh, we tried the hose trick at someone else's house, which is where they climbed in and began to refuse to come out many hours ago. I think that the hose mostly helps keep them cool and dislodges little moist snacks for them. Hose failed. My new hope is that if they all continue to eat at this rate, they will be finished before the house guests arrive. The very urban house guests. Oh God. No, it's funny. It's appalling and funny and completely, entirely representative of life with dogs.
I'm so glad I read this thread, dogless as I am. Dogs and elk. Dogs and elk.
It's like that children's book out there. Dogs in elk, dogs on elk, dogs around elk, dogs outside elk. And there is some elk inside of as well as on each dog at this point.
Classy. Aren't you in Arizona or Nevada? There are elk there? I'm so confused.
I'm in New Mexico, but there are elk in both Arizona and Nevada. Yeah, there are elk all over the damn place.
We definitely need to see pics of Gus Pong and Jake in the elk carcass.
They don't look out very often. If you stand the rib cage up on end, they scramble to the top and look out, all red. Otherwise, you kind of have to get in there a little bit yourself to really see them. So I think there will not be pictures.
Wait, all red? I'm not sure that the deeper horror of all this was fully borne in upon me until I saw that little phrase.
Well, you know, the Basenji, that would be Jake, is a desert dog and naturally and infamous for its aversion to water. And then Gus Pong, who is coming to us live, unamplified, and with a terrific reverb, which is making me a little dizzy, really doesn't mind water, but hates to be cold or soapy. And both of them can really run. Sprints of up to 35 miles per hour have been clocked. So if they ever come out, catching them and returning them to a condition where they can be considered house pets is not going to be, shall we say, pleasant.
What if you stand the rib cage up on end and wait for them to look out and then grab them when they do and just pull?
They wedge their toes between the ribs and scream. Oh, we tried that before we took the elk home from the mountain with the dogs inside. Jake nearly took my friend's arm off. He's already short a toe, so he cherishes the 15 that remain.
Have you thought about calling your friendly vet and paying him to come pick up the dogs, elk, and letting the dog stay at the vet's overnight? If anyone would know what to do, it would be your vet. It might cost some money, but it would solve the immediate crisis. Keep us posted.
Now you could fit a whole lot of Pomeranians in that there elk carcass. Pitt, my condolences on what must be an unbelievable situation.
I did call my vet. He laughed until he was gagging and breathless. He said a lot of things which can be summed up as, "What did you expect?" and "No, there is no such thing as too much elk meat for a dog." He's planning to stop over and take a look on his way home. Well, thanks, Shih Tzu Not. I'm almost surrendered to the absurdity of it.
He's planning to stop over and take a look on his way home so we can fall down laughing in person.
Basically, yeah, that would be about it.
No, there's no such thing as too much elk meat for a dog. Oh, sweet Lord Pitt, you have my deepest sympathies in this. Perhaps the most peculiar of the Gus Pong adventures. You are truly a woman of superhero patience. Wait, you carried the carcass down from the mountains with the dogs inside?
No. Well, sort of. My part in the whole thing was to get really stressed about a meeting that I had to go to and say, yeah, okay, whatever, when it was suggested that the rib cages, since we couldn't get the dogs out of them and the dogs couldn't be left there, be brought to my house. Because, I just thought they would get bored of it sooner or later. But it appears to be later, in the misty, uncertain future, that they will get bored. Now they are still interested, and very loud, one singing, one snoring.
Wow. I can't even begin to imagine the acoustics involved with singing from the inside of an elk.
Reverb. Lots and lots of reverb. I'll tell you the thing that's causing me to lose it again and again, and then I have to go back outside and stay there for a while. After the meeting, I said to my extraordinary boss, look, I gotta go home for the rest of the day, I think. Jake and Gus Pong are inside some elk rib cages, and my dad is coming tonight, so I gotta get them out somehow. And he said, pale and huge-eyed, how did you explain the elk to the clients? Poor man thought I had the carcasses brought to work with me. For some reason, I find this deeply funny. So, what we did was put the rib cages containing dogs on tarps and drag them around to the side yard where I figured they would at least be harder to see, and then open my bedroom window so that the dogs could let me know when they were ready to be plunged into a de-elking solution and let into the house. And then I went to the airport. Came home, no visible elk, no visible dogs. Peeked around the shrubs, and there they were, still in the elk. By this time, they had gnawed out some little portholes between some of the ribs, and you got the occasional very frightening glimpse of something moving around in there if you watched it long enough. After a lot of agonizing, I went to bed. I closed the back door, made sure my window was open, talked to the dogs out of it until I was sure they knew it was open, and then I fell asleep. And sometimes sleep is a mistake, no matter how tired you are. And especially if you are very, very tired and some of your dogs are outside, inside some elks. Because when you are that tired, you sleep through bumping kind of noises. You kind of think that it's just the house guests. It wasn't the house guests. It was my dogs. Having an attack of teamwork unprecedented in our domestic history. When I finally woke all the way up, it was to a horrible vision. Somehow, 3 dogs with a combined weight of about 90 pounds managed to hoist one of the rib cages, the meteor one, of course, up 3 feet to rest on top of the swamp cooler outside the window and push out the screen. What woke me was Gus Pong howling in frustration from inside the ribcage very close to my head, combined with feverish little grunts from Jake, who was standing on the nightstand, bracing himself against the curtains with remarkably bloody little feet. Here are some things I have learned this Rosh Hashanah weekend. Almond milk removes elk blood from curtains and pillowcases. 2, we can all exercise superhuman strength when it comes to getting elk carcasses out of our yard. Number 3, the sight of elk rib cages hurtling over the fence really frightens the nice deputy who lives sheriff's deputy who lives across the street. And 4, the dogs can pop the screens out of the windows without damaging them from either side. What I am is really grateful that they didn't actually get the damn thing in the window, which is clearly the direction they were going in, and that the nice deputy didn't arrest me for terrifying her with elk parts before dawn.
Imagine waking up with a gnawed elk carcass in your bed, like a real-life Godfather with an all-dog cast.
There is not enough almond milk in the world to solve an event of that kind.
Amazing. Dogs in elk, everybody. Elizabeth, you did an amazing job inhabiting that Arizona woman who just could not deal and yet somehow could deal with those dogs and elk. Excellent acting, Elizabeth and everybody else. So fun. I imagine some of you watching will have already read this aloud to some other people because it's just worth it. All right. Cow tipping. Hilarious, right? Already. Don't even need to tell a story. but we will. I can't even remember where I found this one. It was another one that was just copy pasted to some forum, which linked back to a website where the story doesn't even exist anymore. I do, however, remember laughing so much that I had to share it. So, take it away, Megan.
True story. I was in grad school in Sydney, living on campus. There were these two Danish guys in my dorm, Mike and Lars, who had been kept in contact with some Danish girls who were going to another university out in the sticks around Derry and Emu Farm. Since I didn't have any family around and had no money to fly home for the holidays, they were nice enough to invite me to their little Scandinavian Christmas. Things started out great. I was the only non-Dane in the room, but everyone was so nice. I was really starting to feel welcome. Then they prepared the glog. If you don't know what that is, as I didn't then, let me explain. Glog is a traditional Danish holiday drink made from hot wine, but there are spices and nuts and raisins and shit in there too. I guess you have to been raised on it because I could barely choke it down. But since I was a guest, I did my best to smile and swallow. I drank entirely too much of it. Entirely too much. Later on that night, after everyone was a bit lopsided, the American bashing started. Not mean-spirited or anything, but needling just the same. You know, things like,
Why do you love war so much?
Why are Americans so fat?
What makes you think cow tipping is funny?
I was trying, without much effort or success, to defend myself. I explained that I didn't think cow tipping was funny and that I had never actually been cow tipping. So, of course, Mike and Lars start screaming.
Let's do it!
I want to see an American tip a cow.
That would be funny as hell.
I said, fuck no, I'm not tipping a cow. But everyone was really into it, and Mike and Lars said that they'd go with me and tip as well. In my drunken mindset, it started to make more and more sense to me, so I reluctantly said, okay. So we went out into a field that had maybe 6 or 7 cows in it, and goddamn if Mike didn't pick out the fucking biggest cow. And he said,
Tip that one. Just walk up and push it over.
Are you fucking kidding me? The cow must have weighed 500 pounds. There was no way I was just going to push it over. I said as much to Lars, and he said,
Okay, get a running start.
oh, well, all right. That made much more sense. I got about 50 feet away from the cow and took off. I got a good head of steam and ducked my shoulder at the last minute for the best impact. I even aimed high for the best leverage possible. Lessons learned from this experience. 1, cows are fucking heavy. 2, cows are fucking hard as rocks. 3, I am fucking stupid. I just about fractured my clavicle, and the cow shuffled over about half a step and walked off, leaving my stupid drunk ass whimpering in the mud. The rest of the cows woke up and sort of wandered off. Mike and Lars were pissing themselves in laughter. I picked myself up off the ground and resigned myself to taking the walk of shame back into the house. As we were walking back, we passed a mama cow and a little calf. I don't know anything about animal husbandry, but I guess the calf was maybe a year old. Cutest little thing. Mike, push the calf over! He didn't say anything to look at me or Lars for approval, just pushed him over. Started laughing like a lunatic. The mama cow freaked out. She gave a scary ass cow scream, which I'd never heard before and hope to God in heaven I'd never hear again. Jesus Christ, I nearly shit myself. I had no idea that a cow could make a horror movie scream like that. And then the cow charged. Fuck it, you never saw 3 drunks run like that. And suddenly, I remembered a joke from my childhood. Something about running from a hungry bear. I don't have to be faster than the bear. I just have to be faster than you. Lessons learned from that experience. 1, cows are fucking scary fast. 2, drunk people can't run. I was clearly in the lead, running back toward the fence. I hopped nimbly over, and promptly spewed, all over myself. Purple fluid, nuts, raisins just came shooting out of my mouth like the pie eating contest in Stand By Me. It was apparently quite spectacular. Mike came over next, but it was obvious that Loss wasn't going to make it. I guess he thought he was being chased by a bear because he decided to fall down and play dead. But it was clear the cow wasn't to be had so easily. She stopped, rolled Loss over with her nose, started sniffing him. For a minute, I thought his ruse was going to work. Then the calf trotted over, and I swear, God is my witness, monkey stomped Loss in the nutsack. Then the mama and baby just walked off. Loss projectile vomited in a fashion very similar to my own. Mike and I stood there, open mouthed, disbelieving. We never spoke of the incident again.
Never. Until you posted it on this website, of course. Oh my God, thank you, Megan. Again, excellent intensity. I'm reminded of Mike's intensity from that fucking squirrel story we had earlier. That was amazing. Thank you so much. Applause from me, and I'm sure everyone else watching on YouTube. All right. We finally got to our final show. Shakespeare's The Tempest. But instead of boring Shakespeare-type words, this one's going to be yelled at you in normal words, like a normal person. Better Myths is an awesome site that has retellings of all sorts of myths. Greek myths, Shakespeare, fables, fairy tales, Zoroastrianism, all sorts of shit. If your thing has a mythology, that site will simplify it and yell it at you. Check it out. Honestly, it's hilarious. Okay, so there's this tempest, right? Just like in the title. It's pretty on the nose, even for Shakespeare. And in this tempest, there is a ship, and the ship is on fire. Neat. Ship is full of two kinds of people, boat people and royalty. The royalty are running all over the ship, and the boat guys are like,
"Oh my God, get down below, you assholes. You're gonna make us." Oh, whoops, there we go. We crashed. Thanks a lot.
Meanwhile, on a suspiciously nearby island, this wizard named Prospero is lecturing his daughter Miranda about the past. They are the only two humans on this island, so he does this a lot. And his daughter is so fucking bored of it that he keeps having to stop to ask her if she's paying attention. And she keeps being like,
"Uh-huh. Yeah, of course."
But as soon as he's done, she falls immediately asleep. Anyway, what he says is this.
I used to be Duke of Milan, but I was a garbage Duke. I spent all my time reading dumb books about magic and delegated all my Duke responsibilities to my brother Antonio. And now I am mad because Antonio took away my dukedom.
To be fair, he is also mad because Antonio exiled him to this island. Or actually, he just put him on a boat with no food in the hopes that he would die. And the only reason he survived was because some chill bro named Gonzalo gave him and Miranda water, and they just happened to land on this incredibly magical island. So Miranda falls asleep after listening to this boring story about her dad's incompetence, and Prospero's like,
"Finally, yo, Ariel, get your ephemeral ass in here."
And Ariel, who is essentially a ghosty twink with superpowers, is like,
"Okay, yeah, what do you want?"
"Did you set that boat on fire like I asked?"
"Oh yeah, I fucked that boat up."
"Good, because all my enemies were on that boat. Antonio, my shitty brother. Alonso, the asshole Duke of Milan. Sebastian, the crab. Sebastian, the asshole Duke's even shittier brother. Plus Alonso's sexy son, Ferdinand. And also my best bro, Gonzalo. And a whole bunch of innocent sailors and some clowns. And who gives a shit?"
"Yeah, dude, I know. I just got finished dumping their still alive bodies all over the island, just like you told me to. Now, can I stop being your magical slave already?"
"Bitch, what did you just ask me? Do I need to remind you what I've done for you, Ariel? A witch trapped you inside a fucking tree, and she was gonna release you in a couple years, but then she died. So if I hadn't come along and freed you with my magic, you'd probably still be handing out apples to some ungrateful kids like some fucking Shel Silverstein book. So get out there and start making everybody trip balls, or I will stuff you so far up a tree's ass that you're gonna be surprised some shit out of some squirrels.
Oh, speaking of that witch, this is right when her son shows up. The son is named Caliban, and he is exactly as gross as you expect a witch's kid to be. Prospero pretty much just beats him with his staff. And Caliban makes the very legitimate point that this is not okay. But Prospero's just like,
it is too okay because you tried to sex my daughter.
and Caliban's like,
Okay, but she's literally the only female on this island. And maybe I crossed a line, but look, I also showed you all the natural resources on this island, and now I am literally your slave. There is no moral justification for slavery, dude.
but he goes off to get firewood anyway because he doesn't want to die. Oh, is Prospero done yelling at people now? Not quite. Because now it's time for Prince Ferdinand to wake up on a beach by himself, miraculously unharmed, and immediately falls balls over boners for Miranda, who falls boobs over buttocks right back, because this is the first man she has seen who was not either cursed or her dad. So these two are tumbling towards each other, Ghibli's first, when Prospero steps between them like,
Whoa, 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 whoa. What the fuck do you kids even know about each other? Slow down, soggy trousers.
man, where was Prospero during the entirety of Romeo and Juliet? Well, probably exiled, to be honest. Luckily, Prospero has a plan. Ferdinand will prove his intentions toward Miranda by carrying bundles of firewood. Prospero apparently needs a lot of firewood for something. Ooh, meanwhile, most of the rest of the dudes on the ship wake up together, them being Antonio, Alonso, Sebastian, Gonzalo, and a bunch of less important people who don't talk. But then Alonso and Gonzalo immediately fall asleep again because of Ariel, just long enough for Antonio and Sebastian to plot to kill Alonso so that Sebastian can be Duke of Naples. But then Ariel just wakes everyone up before they can do it. So this interlude is just to show how shitty Antonio is. Then they go off looking for Ferdinand, even though everybody's pretty sure he's dead. Meanwhile, Caliban is passed out in the woods, grabbing a much-needed respite from his slavery, when two rogue clowns appear. One of them is named Trinculo, and he is a jackass. And the other one is named Stefano, and he is a jackass with booze. So naturally, Caliban pledges fealty to Stefano. And the three of them drink the ship's entire wine supply, and they get so shithouse plastered that they think it's a fantastic idea when Caliban is like,
Hey, let's go kill my master, an actual wizard, and become kings of the island ourselves.
Unfortunately for them, Ariel is busy being invisible nearby, and he hears their whole cunning plan. Now, you would think that Ariel would be sympathetic to Caliban, since Ariel is also enslaved to Prospero. But Ariel is an immortal creature, made entirely out of magic. Time is meaningless to Ariel, and doing a miracle is like taking a shit for him. Prospero doesn't even have the brain power to conceive of something that would mildly inconvenience Ariel. He's pretty much just doing this shit because he thinks it's funny. Meanwhile, it turns out forbidding two young people to bone makes them really want to bone. And as Ferdinand and Miranda can amply attest. And guess what, guys? This was Prospero's whole plan all along. Finally, someone using teenage butt lust for good, or at least for his own Machiavellian purposes. Because after 3 hours, yes, exactly 3 hours, Prospero finally gives in and agrees to marry them. He's like,
Okay, I guess my daughter can become the heiress of Naples, but first, let me do some magic tricks to solemnize your marriage.
No, it's cool. We really just want to fuck.
Don't be modest. I know you want me to do magic.
No, it's cool. I can just grab his wiener right now.
I know what couples really want. Magic tricks.
So then he summons ghostly images of Venus and Iris and Hera to do a play about how marriage is great, and the two kids are like,
Yay, thanks. Yeah, great.
Yeah, can we go bone now?
and Prospero's like,
Yes. Oh, shit. I forgot Caliban was trying to kill me.
oh, it's not a big deal though, because everybody Prospero doesn't like is just getting screwed in the marshes right now, because they fell for some rookie DM level traps, like a fat banquet out in the middle of nowhere, or a clothesline covered in rich garments, also in the middle of nowhere. It gets so bad that what with the brambles and the mud and the wolves, that Ariel is just finally like,
Yo, Prospero, I know you hate these dudes, but this is really starting to bum me out, and I don't even have a soul.
Yeah, okay, fine. Let them out.
So Gonzalo and Antonio and Sebastian and Alonso show up at Prospero's crib, and Prospero's like,
Surprise, bitches. This is my revenge.
Who are you?
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me put on my old hat.
Oh, snap! It's Prospero! We're so sorry we exiled you.
Yeah, fuck all you guys except Gonzalo. You're cool. But actually, I got to be Wizard King of an incredibly magical island, which is really a lot better. Considering that I didn't give a shit about being a Duke anyways. But for some reason, I still really want to be Duke of Milan.
Ugh, fine, asshole. Have your dukedom back.
Yeah, whatever. I don't care. I just fucking lost my son.
Yeah, I feel you, dog. I just lost my daughter, by which I mean my daughter just got married to your son. Correct. I married off your son while you weren't looking. Now my grandchildren will rule both Milan and Naples. This is truly the ultimate prank.
and he pulls aside a curtain, and there's Ferdinand and Miranda playing chess. Yeah, sure. Also, Trinculo and Stefano and Caliban show up at one point, shit themselves with drunken fright, and go back to being slaves to their various masters, because that's the way it should be. Anyway, Alonso is so relieved, he doesn't even care that Prospero's dicking him out of his legacy, and then Prospero breaks his magic staff and throws his magic book into the ocean, like an idiot. And he lays off Ariel, who conspicuously fails to steal his soul or anything. And then Prospero turns to the audience, and he's like,
Hey guys, if you don't clap your asses off for this show, I will be trapped in this play forever, so please help.
so, the moral of the story, dear audience, is if you don't share this post with everyone you know, I will be trapped in this internet forever. The end. That is Tales from the Internet. I will stop my screen share so that we can see all of these wonderful, beautiful faces of these wonderful, beautiful actors. Thank you so much, everybody. This was such an incredible show. You were all very amazing. Hey, let's pretend that we're actually still in the theater again, like normal people, and have a group wow. So do whatever you need to do to get a little bit back from your camera, maybe. And 3, 2, 1, bow. Yay! It felt so real, didn't it? Thank you all so much for tuning in. This has been a wonderful evening. Special thanks to Sarah Brinks, Mack, Carroll, Ben Cordes, Stephanie Haddad, Mike Hennessey, Megan Hennessey, Elizabeth Leonard, Jess Viator, and our special projects coordinator, Mike Haddad. Thank you so much. I'm Andy Lebrun. This has been Tales from the Internet, put on by Theater at First. If you want to see another show like this, Theater at First is doing Doubt on November 20th.